Hi everyone, so in this video I will show you how to build an expense tracker with React.js. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So right there I have a simple expense tracker on my screen. So here's a simple expense tracker on the screen here. So if you try adding an item in this form and you click on submit, it's going to update what we have over here. So let's try that now. We just simply say, let's say 2 crates of eggs and then put in the amount. Let's just say 200. And then category, let's say groceries, and then submit. So you can see we have 2 crates of eggs. It updated the total price. I can delete these items. I can come here, I can filter these items. We only have groceries, so let's do that right now. Groceries, and you can see that. So I can add more items. Let's say 2 packs of chocolates. So say 300. The categories, let's say groceries or utilities. So just submit. It updates, the price updates, everything is working beautifully well. Everything works fine. So I'll show you how to build a simple expense tracker using React.js. So that's what I'll do. We're getting started right now. So right now it's time for us to create our React app, and this time we are going to be using Vite to create our React app. So go down to your computer, get to your command prompt. So I've got mine over here, so you can just come here and search for CMD. So you see yours CMD, I said there. Okay, so once you search for CMD on this search bar, you see your command prompt on top here, so just click on it. So click on it, it's coming up. Okay, so here's my command prompt. So I'm going to make this a bit bigger so you can see clearly. Okay, here's my command prompt. So right now I'm going to go into my documents directory. I'll say cd then document. Okay, inside of this directory now I'm going to create a new folder. I'll say this, I'll call this folder make directory, and I'll call it expense tracker. So that's it. So once I've done that, I need to go into this folder I just created. I'll say cd expense tracker. Okay, yes. So once you enter this folder now, I want to create a React app inside of this expense tracker, and we are going to use Vite to create our React app. So you can go down to Vite documentation and you can read about them, read about what Vite is and how it helps to make creating React app super fast. Understand? So we are going to use Vite. So there is a command here, it's called npm create Vite. I think I saw that somewhere. So let's run this command first, npm create Vite. So to the browser. Oh, where's my? So now let's run. So say npm create Vite. So it's going to take quite some time. So now we have a prompt. So okay, so for us to proceed, just type in y, so enter. So now it's creating Vite right now. So it's trying to install create Vite. So it says it's right now it's asking us to name our project. I'm going to call my React. I'm going to say React-app. So enter. So now it's asking us to pick a framework. So we are working with React.js. So just use your arrow keys or your keyboard to come down to React. So enter. So it's asking us for which language we are using. Are you using JavaScript? Are you using TypeScript? So we are using JavaScript, right? So currently it's on JavaScript. So just click on enter. So once you've done that, now we have to go into our React app. So say cd, just run this command step by step. So say cd React app, and then say npm install. So you need to install all the node modules for this project. You understand? All the React dependencies. You need to install everything. So say npm install. So enter. So it's going to take quite some time to install the dependencies for this project. So let's wait while it install. Okay, so once you are done running npm install, once you are done running the command npm install, you're going to have some packages added to your React app, to your React project. So once you have those packages now, you can then decide to open this folder with VS Code by saying code then dot enter. So we're going to have this this directory opened on VS Code. So let's see that right now. So VS Code is coming up. So currently we have our project open on VS Code. So you can see the npm install, the command we ran over here called npm installed. This command you see here is this command helped to create this folder. Let me show you this node modules folder, and this folder contains all the all our dependencies for this project. You get, so that's it there. So once you've done that now, so we are going to use VS Code as our terminal also. So click on terminals and new terminal. So we are going to run our server. We are going to run the server on VS Code also. So let me bring this down a bit. So terminal is coming up. So right now we have one command remaining for us to run. So this is the command over here. Remember, from what we have here, we're given 3 commands. We have to cd into the React app, then run npm install, then npm run dev. So let's run the command over here. It's called npm run dev. So it's not okay. Enter. So right now, we're going to run our development server for us. So it's coming up. So right now we are done with the command now. So just hold down your control or command key and then click on this URL. So click on it. So it's going to open on the browser. So you should open right now. So once you see this now, it means you've successfully been able to create your React application and also been able to run your development server successfully. So right now we're going to see a landing page that shows that we have successfully created our React app. So right now this is what we have here. So now this is what we have. So we want to convert this page you see here to what we have. Oh, I don't have that. Okay, we want to convert this page to our expense tracker form. We want to build an expense tracker form on this page. So let's do that right away. So here's our project. So let's start the structuring. So we have some files we don't want here. So currently our index of CSS. So this video is meant for people that are currently learning React.js. So if you're learning React.js, so this video is meant for you. So this is a React project you are going to build together. Understand? So let's continue. So I need to, for example, we have our index of CSS over here. I need to empty out all those files. I need to empty them up. So we are going to lose the stars for all these things, but it's fine. Let's continue. So I'll just Control A, get this empty. I will add the CSS also. Get this empty also. So our app.js, we need to also get it empty. Hope you understand. So just from this div, or okay, I can just remove from this div up there. I remove what we have there. I'll remove everything there. So empty. Okay, I can just simply put a fragment there. A fragment. If you have fragment, okay, that's fine. Okay, now so that's it now. So we have our app.jsx. This is the base component that helps to hold the other components we are going to create. So we also have our main.js. So this file helps to render our base component to the browser. Understand? So we also have the index.html. This is the HTML page we see on the screen. This is the single HTML we see on the screen. You get? So that's it. That's for that. So right now we're going to create some components right away. So we're going to go down to our source folder. I'm going to create a new folder there called components. Let's get straight to business components. So inside of this folder now, I'm going to create 3 component files instead. So the first one is going to be called, I'll call the first one, I'll say expense list. You can say expense list .jxx. So that's the first one. So right now we're going to create this expense list right away. Okay, so let's continue. So right now I'm going to use some bootstrap classes over here. But before we do that, we need to install bootstrap again. So let's install bootstrap. Okay, so we're gonna run. So let's install bootstrap. So right now we'll say npm I. So the I stands for install. So I'll say bootstrap. So let's see. So we're going to install bootstrap for us, so we can easily run bootstrap codes inside of our project again. So let's just go to the browser and search for, okay, let's hit install. It's coming up. Let's wait for that. Okay, so right now we have successfully installed bootstrap. You go down to your package.json, you see we have bootstrap there now. We have bootstrap, we have React, we also have React DOM. Okay, that's fine. So let's continue. So I'm going to go down to my main.jxs file. So on this file, I'm going to simply link to bootstrap. You get? So you know we just installed bootstrap, right? So on this file, remember this file helps to run our base components. You understand? So I'm going to simply link to Bootstrap here. So let's do that right away. So I just linked to Bootstrap right now, and with what we just did here now, we have Bootstrap accessible on all the old components, because this is the this is the file that helps to render the base components, you get. So let's go back to our expense list now. Okay, we need some Bootstrap code, so let's get that now. Okay, so we have this React snippet called RAFCE. So with this React snippet, we can easily create GSS templates easily and faster, you get. So just type in RAFC and then enter. So you're gonna have a simple GSS template there. So if you don't have it on your if you don't have it working on your VS Code, I'll show you how to activate it to start working on your VS Code. How do you get this? So for this thing to work on your React project, you need to go down to your extension panel and look for EX. So look for EX7. Just search for EX7 from the extension panel. So once you search for EX7 on the extension panel, just scroll down. You will see you have EX7 plus React, this stored one, this stored item is here. So click on it. So once you click on it, so it should open up. So it's opened now. So you need to install this extension on your VS Code. This is necessary you do that. You can see on my own is saying uninstall because I already have it installed, you get. So if after you've installed this extension and it still does not work on your computer, you just have to restart VS Code and it's going to work, you get. So install this extension. With this extension, you'll be able to create GSS templates faster, you understand? Right, let's get some Bootstrap class, some Bootstrap markup. I need a markup for a table to form our expense list, you understand? So I need a table markup right there. So I'm going straight to Bootstrap now. So we're on bootstrap.com, get bootstrap.com. So let's look for tables. Okay, I'll get this first one. Okay, so let's just see. So our code now, right now these are our expense list. Before we proceed, just type in this command RAFCE. So and then enter. So once you do that, now we have a simple React template. You can see we have this everything done for us, perfect. So once you've done this, so remove this div, here. So now paste what I copied from Bootstrap. So we have this table over here, but I'll remove some results. So right now remove what I don't need. So this is going to be called class name, because in React we don't use class, we use class name, because this class is already a keyword in JavaScript, again. So we can't use class as it is, we have to call it class name. Okay, so once we've done that, so just allow me, I need to remove some stuff here. We really need one of these for now, as we are going to map through the rest. Okay, I think I can remove them. But for this first one, I don't need it. This one up here, I don't need it. So just right there, let me just come here and say description. And after I've done this, I'll say description, I'll say amount, and then category. Remember, we are trying to build an expense category. We're trying to build an expense tracker with React.js. So we have this as the heading. So what we want to do now, first, okay, so right now, let me just come here and say, let's say 2 packs of cheese. Let's say 2 packs of cake. Okay, so I put in the amount there. Let's just say $300. Okay, and then category, I'll say groceries. Am I right? Okay, so let's do that right away. So what we want to do next now, we need to import this component into the base component, you get. So okay, so since it's already exported here, I think you can import it. So go down to your app.gxs. So remove this guy, we don't need it again. Okay, so I'm gonna just come here and say expense list rather. So once I do that, once I click on it, it automatically imports it for me on top. And then yeah, so I can do that right away. So let's say that, remember, our server is still up to our browser now. Let's see what we have on the browser. You can see what we have. super long. Okay, you can see description, amount, category. So I'll simply press F12 to show my console, so I can make this just take up half the width of the screen. Okay, so I think it looks better now. So once we've done this now, so we're gonna go down to our base components. So on our app components, on the base component, which is the app.jxx, we need to declare a state that holds the list of our expenses. You understand? So let's declare that state over here. So I'll come over here and just say const, and I'll say expenses, and then we're going to say set expenses. You get, so this is our variable called expenses, and this other name you see here is a function that helps to change the value of this variable called expenses. So we're going to use a use state hook. So let's just say use state hook. So it has been imported for us already. So use state now. So it's going to hold an array of objects. So the first object is going to have this key. It's going to be ID. I'm going to set that to, let's just say ID should be 1. So you're going to have ID, one of the keys. The other key is going to be called description. Okay, I'm going to set that to, let's say 2 packs of sugar. Okay, category. So I'll set that to, what's that name? So category, I'm going to set that to, let's say groceries, if I'm correct. Okay, groceries. Okay, so that's it now. So I'm going to, let me just say Control X. Once I save this, it's going to simply help me to format my code to look good. So all you have to do now is go down to your extension and then install Prettier. Go down to your extension panel and then install Prettier. So whenever you save your work, it helps you to format your page. It helps you to make your page look good. So just search for Prettier. Okay, Prettier. So I spelled it wrongly. Prettier. Okay. So you just search for this extension and then install it on your computer. So I don't know why mine is not coming up. I think I'm disconnected from the internet. Okay, my internet is down. Just search for this extension and install it on your computer. So I'll copy this now, Ctrl C. Let's just paste that now. So let's make it one more. So I'm gonna give it an ID of 2. Let's say 3, 4, 5. So description, let's say 2 packs of biscuits. What else again? 2 packs of, let's say sweets. Okay. Over here, let's say okay, let's just add this. Okay. Okay, subscription. What else are we adding again? So we have groceries. So I'm going to change this to, let's say so let's continue and I'll add this one. Okay, so electricity, let's just say bill. Okay, so now category, this first two are going to be under groceries. This one is going to be, let's say utilities, and then this last two be under entertainment. Okay, so let's just add that. What's wrong with me? Entertainment. So I need to add their amount to each of them. So let's add the amount right now. So right now I'm done declaring our states. So we have our expenses. Is a list of these objects. So what I want to do right now is I want to pass these expenses down to my expense list, because on this page I want to list out the expenses, right? so we can have it render out here. Hope you get. So I'm going to use through props right now. I will be able to pass up this state called expenses into the expense list components. Let's do that right away now. So if I proceed, I would love to add some padding to this, So I'll go down to my to my index.css, to the index.css. If you come down to your main.css, you'll find that we have index.css linked over here. So this file is global. It has effect on all components. You understand? So just come down here, and I'll just say body, and I'll just say padding should be like 20 pixels. So let's do that right away. So perfect. So once we've done that, I think that's fine. So we'll see some padding on the page now. Perfect. We have some padding. Okay, so right now I want to pass this. Or we just let me clear out some of this stuff. So I want to pass this state into these components here. So I'll come over here and I'll just say items should be equal to expenses instead. So put in your curly braces. So expenses. So that's done. Once you've done this, now go down to your expense list. So you need to get in that items. Remember, these items we declared here. It is equal to these expenses, right? So come over here now. So it's going to be a prop. So just come there and say I'm going to destructure it. I will say items. So perfect. So that's it. So once we've done that, now we need to loop through. We need to then map through the items. We need to map through it. So come over here now. Okay, put in the curly braces again. So come over here and say items dot map. So once we've done that now, so let's map now, we can then loop through this item and then generate more rows based on these items. So this is how we do it now. So we are going to simply have a callback function. So we're going to say item, and then we can do this now. So once we've done this now, copy this or cut. Let me just say Ctrl C, and I'll paste inside of what we have here, just inside here. We paste it there. So once it's done, okay, so we've been able to map to the items. So that's what we have on the page now. So you can see now we have 5 rows. We have 5 rows now, but they are still holding the same content. You get? So this, we've been able to map to the items. So what we have to do now is we need to pass in the exact values into each of the columns. You get? So right now we are still having the same content, the same values in all the rows. So let's pass in the actual content. So come over here, we'll say item.description. Once we've done that now, come over here, we'll say item.amount. Item.amount. And then for the category, we'll come over here and say item.category. So that's it, dots, not comma. So that's let's see what we have now. You can see now we have the expenses now listed out on the page. That's fine. So let's continue. Okay, so we've done that already. So what we need to do now is we need to add the last row that helps to hold the total price of what we've done so far. So I remove the comments from here. So I'll just declare 2 of these, remove this last one. So say total over here, let's call this total. So this is the last row that helps to hold the total price of the items we have on our expense tracker. You get? So I'll say H3 and then we'll say total. So we're gonna use the H3 tag there. So once we've done that already, so over here the same thing, we'll also use H3 tag there. So I will say, let's just put in the value, let's say $300. Okay, that's fine. Let's see how it looks like. Okay, that's perfect. So right now, once to calculate the amount, you can see you want to get the total amount of these items. You get? So Let's do right away. So in JavaScript, we have what we call the reduce method. It works on arrays. So let's get that right now. Okay, inside here. Okay, so we're gonna simply do this now. Say items.reduce. So this method helps us to sum the list of items in an array. It helps to sum the list of numbers, not just items, numbers. For instance, right now I want to sum up the list of our amounts. I want to sum them up. For instance, let's do right away now. So say items of reduce. So it takes in two parameters. So say the first one is the total price, and the second one is what we call the second one is the current value. For instance, I'm going to call this item. So once we've done this now, so we have our arrow function. So let me just come here and say, so right here, let me say total plus item, not just item, but item.amount. Understand? Remember, these are the items here. This individual object are the items. So we are trying to get the amount field. Understand? The amount property. No, you get. So say item.amount. So say total is just like the total just helps to sum up these things. You get. We say item.amount. And we are going to say, we're going to put in comma then 0. So this comma 0 means that we are starting up from 0 upward. You get. So once we've done this now, we'll then say dot to fixed. So we want to round up to 2 decimal places. So you get. So dot to fixed, and then we put in 2 in the parentheses. You get. So that's that. I hope it works. Let's see. Okay, we have 270 there. If you sum up everything here, we should have the total summing up to 270. Hope you understand. So we're able to sum up the list of expenses we have here. So what next? Now I want to let's add a delete button, so you can be able to delete it, so you can be able to delete our expenses if you want to. So come down here and just come over here and say add another td tag. I will call this bit button .btn outline danger. So we are using bootstrap classes here, and then I'll say delete. So let's see. So right now you can see now we have our delete button. So right now we can delete our expenses if you want to. Okay, so now right now let's create our delete function instead. So if we check closely, we have our expenses declared on the app.gss. So this is the best place to create your delete function. You can't do that on the ExpensesList.gss instance. So you are meant to do it here. We are meant to update the state on this on this particular component, because right now we check closely, we have our expenses declared on these components. We are meant to update the state on this same component again. So once you are done doing that, we are going to then pass that function as a prop to the expense list component again. So let's continue. So we'll just say const delete. I'll say some right now. Let's declare the function. So I'll say delete item. So once we've done that, it's going to be an arrow function. So put in your parentheses, then the arrow symbol. Okay. So I'm then going to use set items now. So set expenses helps to update the value of expenses. You get. So right now, let me just say expenses dot filter. So I'm trying to filter out the expenses. So I'm those filter, then I'll say expense. So remember, these are the individual expenses in this expense list. So expense. So I've done that now. So expense, then the arrow function. Then I'll say expense dot id not equal to id. So I'm going to pass id here. So let me explain what is happening over here now. So I'm simply filtering out all the expenses that's the ID does not correspond to the given ID we're provided with. Understand? So this is how it's going to be now. So over here, and if I click on this particular button, now, I'm going to get the ID of these particular expenses. So what I'm doing now is I'm simply filtering out all the items whose ID are not equal to this. You understand what I'm doing over here? Understand? So that's it over here. So expenses refers to this list of objects, and this expense refers to the individual items. So we are looping through them. So, and then I'm saying that return. So I'm trying to say expenses.filter. So I'm trying to get the list of expenses. I'm trying to get the list of expenses that their ID is not the same as the one I chose. Remember, if I click on this button over here, I'm going to pick an ID. So I'm trying to get the list of expenses whose ID are not the same as the one I picked. Hope you understood. So that's it over there. So I'm going to pass this function now as a prop to this expense list. So come over here and say, I'll just say delete expense. It can be whatever name you like. You get. So I'm calling my delete. I also delete item should be equal to. It can be this. Delete item should be equal to this function. Copy this function over here. Control C, the function name, and we paste it over there. So come over to your expense list component and then pass it over there as a prop. So delete items. So now once you've done that, now go down to your button and then I'm going to add an onClick event. So say onClick should be equal to the delete item you declared up. So delete items. It's going to be equal to these delete items here in the props you get. So delete items. Okay, so that's that. So once we've done that, remember we need to pass in the value for this ID. This ID you see here, you get. So we need to pass in the value. So over here we're going to say that ID is going to be simply item dot ID. So let's see, hope everything works fine. So to the browser, hope there is no problem. So let's see. Refresh the page. Okay, from our console, it's throwing an error. It's saying that delete items is not a function. So let's see. From what I call it over here, from our expense list, it's called delete items. And over here I called delete I called it the same name, delete items. Let's see the app.gxs. Okay, I called it delete item, not items. So I need to pass in. So I made a mistake here. So I moved the X. It's called item and not items. So remove this over there. So I think everything should work now. So to the browser, what just happened? If you watch closely, I made a mistake on my end right here now. So what I did now is that I called this function over here. I simply called it. So what I'm meant to do is that whenever I click on the button, the function is meant to be called. But right there, I just call the function straight up. That's wrong. So what I'm meant to do is this. Now I'm meant to just simply pass this into an arrow function. So I'll say arrow function there, then this, and then paste to get. So as before, I just simply, what I did before was just calling the function straight away. Well, I'm meant to call the function whenever I click on the button you get. So I'll say item.id. That should be the value of the ID we passed up here. You get. So that's it. I hope it works now. So let's see what it holds for us. Still not giving us what we want. Okay. So now click on delete. You can see it updates the price and it's deleting. Click on delete, it deletes and updates it, and also update the total price. Delete works. And you can see we're having a warning over here. The warning says each child in the list should have a unique key prop. So I forgot to add that. So go down to your expense list. We are meant to pass a key attribute here to the parents. No, it should be on this, to the parent element, which is this tr. We are meant to say key should be equal to, so it's going to be item.id. You understand? Item.id. That is necessary. So this key, you need to pass in a unique value to each row, which I've done. We just did that right away. So let's see. Okay, I think this should leave. Refresh this page. So we can delete the items and the page updates perfectly. So what's left now? Let's add the filtering. So let's add the filtering. So I'm going to create a new component now called expense filter.js. So new folder, new file called expense filter.jx. So now right now let's create our expense filter component. So we are done with the expense list for now. So let's work on the expense filter. So I'll just say RAFCE to give us a React template. So right now we have the React template over there. Okay, so once we've done that, now we need to use a select field instead. So right in the way, so let's do this now. Just say select, then just use a shortcut. So select, then dot form select is a class name. Form select. You get, so inside of the select field, I want to pass in the option. So say option and then enter. You can see now we now have the select field and the option inside, so that's fine. So once we've done this now, so what's left now? Okay, so let's continue. So I'll pass in 3 options here. Okay, I'll call the first one utilities, right? And then pass outside here utilities. Okay, utilities. So just shift home, Ctrl Z, Ctrl C, and paste and paste. So I'll call this let's say entertainment, and then we call this one entertainment. Okay, this last one, so this one is called groceries, and then call this groceries. Okay, so that's that. So once we've done this, okay, and I need to add a class to this class name. Let's just give it a margin button. So say MB then -3. So you're gonna give us a margin button for this. So once we've done this now, we need to like pass this to the base component. So say expense, come over to app.gxs. So just at the bottom of on top of what we have, on top of expense list, we want to have our expense filter. So say expense filter. So that's that. So let's see what we have on the page. Currently it's showing an error. I don't know what the error is coming from. So okay, there is no error on the page. There is no error. So let's see the page. So we have our filter. We have our filter on top. So I'm going to add, come over here, let's add an empty option. That should be better. So make this blank. Yeah, so that's how it should be. So let's see the page again. So it's perfect now. So click on it. So I think you can filter. I want to filter our expenses. You get it? So okay, so that's that. So let's continue. So as I said before, we can only update the state on the component it was declared, it was defined. So we are going to also update the state again on this same component. So I'm going to call this filter item. This is a function, const filter item. So it's going to be equal to an arrow function, and then okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'll say set expenses. Remember, this set expenses is a function that helps to change the value of expenses. So say set expenses, then I'm going to say expenses.filter expenses.filter. So those filters also featuring now. So I think there's a problem. Use an arrow function. Those filter, then I'll pass in the expense. And then also once we've done this now, we just say expense. So we're going to simply, so we'll say expense.category equal to expense.category equal to, so the value that we are going to say it should be equal to whatever value that was selected on that select field. You get, so I'm going to call that value cat. Now pass that cat into this place as I'll argue as a parameter. That's it. Now that's the cat over there. So we need to pass this function as a prop to this component. So I'll just say, I'll simply say filter item. I need to call it a different. I'm going to say filter, then underscore. Let's say item. So it should be equal to. So this can be any name of your choice. Can be any name of your choice. You get, so it can be equal to this function. So it should be equal to that now. So filter, the function is called filter item itself, the same name. So once we've done this now, we need to pass this as a prop to this component. We need to pass this as a prop to this component to get. So come over here and I put in your credit braces. I will say filter item. So that's that. So once we've done that already, so all I want to do now is this, that whenever we choose any of these categories, so we trigger a change event. So whenever we pick any of these categories, a change event takes place. You understand? So I'm going to come here and we're going to listen for a change event. I'm going to say on change should be equal to, so we'll pass this in now, and then once we've done that, now we can simply call the filter item function, filter item. And once we've done that, filter item, and then we're going to simply pass the argument. So we're going to have, so we have the event, over here. So I'm going to come here and say event dot value, sorry, event on target. So this is how it says. So whenever you're working in any of these event listeners, like the on click, the on change, the on blur, the mouse over, we always have an event object on default, you get. So that's what we have over here. So we want to get the exact value of this field. Whenever we pick an item, whenever we pick any of the categories, we want to have the values that is on the field whenever we pick any of the categories. So to do that now, we're going to simply say event or target. Event or target simply refers to the item that we are currently working on, which is this select field. So dot value, so we want to get the value of that field. So we're going to say event dot target dot value. You understand? So we're going to say dot value will give us the value on that field. You understand? So this is the argument for this parameter we have here, this cat parameter. You understand? I really hope you do understand what I'm doing. So refresh this page. Let's hope it works. So want to pick up all the items under the groceries category. So pick groceries. So you can see now we only have items with the groceries category. You get, so if I pick entertainment, you can see that also works. I can see the summation is also proper. You can delete item, everything just works fine. So right now the last item I want to add on this now is our expense form, whereby you can be able to add expenses. You get, so we've covered the expense list, we've covered the expense filter. So what's left now is the expense form. So let's do that right away. Okay, so let's add the expense form right away. So let's create a new component, new file. So we'll say expense form.gxs. Okay, so that's it. So run the refce to get our React component. So refce. So we've done that already. So in this React templates now, we'll say form, and then once we've done the form now, once we have our form now, so we can then have the form field. So these are I do my, so I'll say div then dot mb3, that's the class name, mb3. So instead of this div, I want to have the label and also the input field. So I'll say label then dot form label. So these are class names. So I'll then say also plus the input field now. It's going to have the class of form control. So that's that. So enter. So just Control X, and once you Control S, it's going to get formatted by itself. So you have to have this extension called Prettier installed. So go down to VS Code extensions panel and install Prettier. So once you've done this now, I can simply, so we have this form now, so I'm going to call this form description. So the ID should also be called description. So ID description. That's because whenever I click on, so if you click on the label, so the form field can be activated itself. It's going to call description. So put on the label name here. So description. Okay, perfect. So just copy this now and we'll paste it 2 more times. So to save time, Control C, and paste it. We're going to have the amounts field, the amounts, and then this is going to be called amount also. Okay, and then the ID here, amounts. So it's going to be a type of number. so number, not text. Okay, so last one should be a select field. You get, so select field. So let me just copy what we have here to save time. I just copy this now. Control C. I will paste it in this form here. Okay, sync. Okay, let's paste it here. I think I'm right. So I'll remove this on change. If I'm correct. Sorry, let's do this from scratch. So avoid mistakes. Okay, select field. Okay, so I'm gonna call this. Let's pass in the option. Okay, so we have 3 options. Let me just copy the option from here. Let's copy these options to save time and paste here. Just Ctrl X and it's formatted for you. So make sure you install Vite here. Okay, so we have select here. Oh, sorry, category. Sorry for that sound. So category. So I think that's fine. So let's pass it to our base template. Let's pass this expense form component to the base template. So come over here now. It should be on top. Expense form. Okay, let's see how it looks like. Hope there is no errors. I guess there's an error. Okay, it's showing there's a problem. So let's see what the problem is. Okay, come over here. I didn't pass a class for the expense for the filter field. So for this field over here, it's called, the class name is called form select equal to form select. Okay, I think it's better now. So I also want to pass in a submit button. A submit button. Ouch, what's happening? Okay, Ctrl Z. So we'll say btn, let's say button dot btn primary, and then say submit. Oh, we should change to submit button. What's happening? Oh, it's going to come up now. Button class, sorry, btn primary. So let's see if it works. Okay, now we have our submit button there. That's fine. So let's also pass let's add an MB3 class to the form. That's the margin bottom MB3. So before you learn React, make sure you know HTML and CSS. If not, you're gonna struggle a bit. So that's let's see. Okay, I think it's better now. So MB3, let's make it MB5. So okay, so we are done building the form now. So what we want to do now is we want to be able to get data from this form and also validate this form, and we are going to be using the library called React Hook Form instead. So we need to install that library or that package into our React project again. So let's go to the terminal. So we're on the terminal right now. So run the command npm install. So npm install, you say I for install, and then you say React hook form. So enter. So you have the latest version of React Hook Form installed. So we're waiting for that. Okay, we already have the library or the package installed. So go down to your package or JSON, you find React Hook Form there. So we have it installed now. So let's use it. So go down to the form, the expense form.jss. So up here we need to import use form from React Hook Form. So we'll say import. Okay, so let's be quick. So we'll say import use form. So we are going to destructure it. So we'll say use and then form from React Hook Form. So here is it here. So once you've done that, let's go into our expense form. So say use form, and then from this use form I want to get some functions from this use form. So I'll maybe say const. So I want to get the register function, register. So So right now I'm calling this register function. This function helps me to it helps to get values from our input field. You get, so this is how we do it here. Go down to your, so I'm going to go down to my description field. So I'll simply just put in the curly braces, then destructure the register function, and then I'll give it a name. So I'm going to give it the name of my field. My field is called descriptions, right? So I was going to just say register and then description. So I'll do the same thing for the other field. So let's just get their values, Ctrl+C, and we paste for the amount field. We paste it there. This amount field is called amount, so just put in amount there. So after we've done this, now for the select field, now I think it's called category, so paste that there and call this category, a category, whatever it's called. So category. So we've done this 3 now. So once we've done it now, so we need to test and see how this works. Okay, we are done registering the fields. So what's left now is we want to submit those forms. So how do we go about that? So the use form also has a method called undo submit. So let's add that function. So say undo submit. So this helps to submit the form. You get, so undo submit. So we're going to add an event listener to the form. So we're going to add a submit event. So say unsubmit should be equal to undo submit. Okay, undo submit, and this undo submit also returns a callback function. You get, so we're going to call a callback function inside the undo submit function. So we'll say data and then the arrow function, you know that, and then we'll say console.log data. So let's run that, console.log data instead. So that's that. Don't worry, I'll provide the source code for you guys. I'll give you guys a GitHub link to the source code. So this is what we have now. So this data you see here is representing the fields from each form in an object format. So let's test that and see. So to our browser now. So let's clear this to the browser. So I'll say 2 packs of, let's say 2 packs of Milo. Let's say that is for, let's say 300, and then category, let's call it under groceries, and then submit the form. Let's see, you can see now we have an object on the console. So you can see the object has 3 fields: description, amount, and category. You can see that's it. That's what the use form is doing for us. If you're using the controlled input or the use ref, you won't have your data in this object format. So with the use form, you easily have your data in this object form. So we are not done yet. We need to also validate this form. So if I come over here and if any of these fields is empty, this function won't submit. It's going to throw an error. So let's try and see. So just submit this form. You can see it didn't throw an error, right? But you can see clearly the fields are empty. Once you're able to throw an error telling you what is wrong with your form, you get. So let's right now we need to validate this form, you get. So let's do that right away. So let's add some validation rules first. We need to add some validation before it throws an error, you get. So let's add some validation rules. So for this description field, I'll come here and simply just say the mean length should be nothing less than 6 characters, so 6, and also it should be required. You get, the field should be required, so say required to true, required, then set to true. The same thing applies for the amount field. So we just need to be required, so the amount field should be required, so required should be equal to true. Okay, this is too big, let me reduce the font size. Okay, required should be equal to true. The same thing for the category field, it should also be equal to true. The required should be true, so required should be true. So if you go back to that form again and you try submitting, it don't submit anything. So let's see, so refresh this. So just submit the form, it submitted nothing, it's throwing an error. So right now I want to return an error message. I want to return an error message to tell you what's wrong with the form again. So okay, at the bottom of this place I'll create a p tag, paragraph tag. So say p. Once we've done this now, We're going to have two error messages for the description field. The first one is saying this field is required. This field is required. So let's add that. The second error is saying you need to this field requires at least this field requires what's happening? This field requires at least 6 characters. So 6 characters. Let's do the right way. Okay. So for the other fields, you only need the first error message, which is this field is required. So let's just add that, and we also add that. I think you're under the select box. So that's that, but you're not done yet. So from this, use for me to import another method called the form states. You get form states. So form states, and this form states has a method inside it called errors. You get, so we're going to simply destructure this form state and get the error method in it. So let's continue. So do this now. Say, let's say errors. So we should have a colon there, and then we're going to come bring out the errors method. Okay, so we've done this already. So we've done this now. So once we now validate this form properly, so just come here and say, so let's put this inside a curly, so just curly braces. So copy this, Ctrl X and paste. So say errors the description, that's the name of the field, errors the description, and then we put in the, you're going to say question mark then dot. So if the error description dot type is equal to, the type is equal to required, so we should be in required. So if it is equal to required, once we return this error message that says this field is required, right? So just put in the and key, the and there. Okay, first of all, we have to import form states, and in form states we also have the errors method in it. So we have to destructure the errors method from this form states. You get it? So we have the description field now. So what we did now is that we are checking the required field there. So if the required field is true, remember we added the validation there that says required should be true. That means that you need to input a value into the description field. So if you do not impute a value into that description field, it's going to show this error. So that's what you are checking for here. If you are trying to see if the error you are facing is the required error. Remember, the required error says that the required error simply means that your field should not be empty. That's what it means. You get it? So what we did next, we are checking if that field is empty. If it is empty, you're going to return this error message. You understand? That's what you are checking here. That's why you see this required here. So if this field is empty, we are going to simply return this error message on the left, on the right. You get it? So, and you might be wondering, why am I using this question mark and then dot? I should have just used error.description.type. So what this question mark does is this now. We might not have this field called description. We might not have it. And if we don't have that field called description, it's going to throw a runtime error. So to avoid that error, we have to put in this that question mark you see there. So if the field does not exist, it simply does nothing. You understand? But without the required field there, if it does not exist, it shows an error. So I've had to add that question mark. You get, so the question mark helps to just check if the field exists, it runs the code, but if it does not exist, it simply does nothing. You understand? So right now, if your form is empty, if your form is blank, we have this error message displayed on the screen. So let's work on the second error message. So just simply come here and say, put in the curly braces. Oh, we could simply just copy this. Let's just save time. Ctrl C. Let's paste that here. So once you paste that here, just copy this P message, copy the error message and paste here. So just paste that there. So once you're done, so what we're checking now is you are saying if this field, if it violates the min length property. Remember, our min length says the field must contain at least 6 characters. So I'm going to put in min length here. So if our field violates the min length rule, we are going to return this error message on the right. The first error, if the first error check is if the field is blank, return the field is required. The error may say the field is required, right? The second error check is if your characters is not up to 6 characters on the description field, we are simply going to return this field requires at least 6 characters. So let's do the same thing for the other fields. So just copy this, come over here, so I'll paste on top. Okay, just copy and paste here. So we're going to say errors.amount, that's not the field here, .amount. Okay, the same thing we'll do again for the category field. Paste there, error.category. Okay, that's done. So once we've done that now, I think everything should be fine. Okay, so let's see how things go to the browser. I hope everything works. Okay, let's see. Okay, if you try submitting the form, you can see we have the error messages there. If you try submitting the form, you can see the error messages are all there. See if I input a value in the description field now. If I input a value now, you can see the error message has changed to this field requires at least 6 characters. If I remove the value, it goes back. But I want to make this red again. So let's make the color red. So I'm going to add a bootstrap class to these error messages. I'm going to say class name. I want to say text danger. So let's just copy this class name and paste on all the error messages to make them red in color. This from bootstrap. So that's that. So let's see. So try submitting the form. They're all red now. That's fine. Perfect. So let's put in, for example, you can see the field is saying it is required, right? So now let's just say 2. Now it's saying 6 characters needed. So I'll just say 2 packs of chocolates. It has been added. Okay, let's put in the value here. Let's say 100. It has been filled. Put here. Let's call it groceries. And if we submit, you can see now we have our, what was it called? We have the object returned for us. So what I want to do next, I want to append this object to our existing expense array. This is the expense array. Go down to your add.js. You want to append the object return from the form. We want to add this object to the array we have here already. Yes, then once we add it here, remember our form is going to, our expense list is going to update automatically. Okay, so right now let's update the expense list, the expense array you get. So as I said before, if you check, remember the expense array was declared on the app.js, right? So we can only update this array on this file. That's the best practice you get on these components you get. So that's the best way to update this expense array we have here. So right now we're going to create a new function. Now we're going to say const add item. Add item should be equal to, it's going to be equal to an arrow function as usual, and then we'll set this. So once we've done this now, so we're going to say set expenses. Remember, set expenses is the function we use to update the expenses you get. So set expenses is going to return also, I think it's going to also return an arrow function. So what we're going to do now is this. Okay, so we're going to simply just the structure. So let me just the structure what we have now. We should just say dot, and then we say expenses. So what we're trying to do is that we're trying to get the value. Let's continue. There's a mistake there. Let me just go back a bit. So remember, the expenses an array, so we need to destructure that's, I'm going to say expenses and get expenses. So put in the 3 dots. Okay, now so we have this. Once we have this now, all we need to do now is we need to add in the current data that is coming in, again. So the current data return from the form. So we need to add that. So let's do that right away. Okay, so just say data. This is 4. Sorry, this dot is meant to be 3, not 4. Sorry. So we've moved on of it now. So all we did now is this now. So we're trying to update these expenses, right? So this is the function. The set expenses is the function that helps to update the expenses array. So we return an arrow function, right? So what we then did is that we have to get the current value of expenses, which is this expenses, right? We have to get the current value. So by getting the current value, we then add the new value that is coming. This is the new value that is coming in. This data is the new value that is coming in. That's what we have. That's what we submitted. You get. So we submit this again. So let's just clear this and submit. So we want to add this new data to this array. I also did here. This data you see here, that's what you see. You get. So we're going to simply add this as a parameter to the function. So it's now a parameter to this function now. So let's continue now. So we're going to simply pass this as a prop to the expense form. So let's do that right away. So let me just come here and say add expense should be equal to, so we just call this add item. So it's equal to add item, right? So just copy the function, just call the function here, just add item. That's okay, add item. So once we've done this now, go down to the expense form component, and then we're going to simply add add expense. Remember, add expense is simply referring to this add item function. Okay, so come over here, let's do the add expense, put in the curly braces, and then say add item. Sorry, I think it's called let's check what I called it. I called it add expense. So just copy this, Ctrl C, and you paste here. Okay, fine. So once we've done this now, we can then go down to our onSubmit function, and we are simply going to pass this function into this and the submit handler you get. So remember, return an arrow function here. So we're going to remove this arrow function. Remember this arrow function you see, we're going to remove it, and then we're still just passing add expense as a new function again, add expense. So what we're going to happen right now is this. Okay, so let's see. Okay, hope everything works fine. So click this console and let's add this data. So just say 200 category groceries, submit. We try an error. So let's see. Okay, so I know what the problem is coming from. So it's coming from, go down to your expense. Let's do this quickly. Go down to your expense list. So you can see the error is coming from items.reduce, and we call this, it's coming from line 26 on expense list. Let's check line 26 on expense list. Okay, what's it saying? So it's coming from this reduce function I did here. Remember, this reduce function helps to like sum up our expense amount and then give us a total. But currently it's showing an error right now. It's because the current expense we are getting, let me show you what I'm talking about. So I remove this, go down to the expense form. So for now, let's just remove this, and let's remove this unSubmit for now. Ctrl Z. Let's remove unSubmit, or let's go back to how it was before. Okay, like this, yeah. So currently, let me just show you what's going wrong. Okay, let's say 200 category grocery submit. So currently you can see now our amount is coming out in form of a string. It's coming out in form of a string, right? And we are trying to add up a string with numbers. We are trying to add up, if you check closely now, this app.js now, the amounts are all in numbers, but the current data we are getting, the amount is coming out in form of a string, and we are trying to add up strings with numbers. That can't work. It can't work again. That's why we are having an error on expense list, because over here we are trying to add up a set of numbers together, and currently a new value is coming in, and the value is in string format, so it can't add up a string to a number. So what we need to do now is this: we need to simply convert this to numbers. It's already a number, but the current data coming in is in string format, so we need to just force this to always remain a number. So how do we go about that? So we're going to simply pull this into, we're going to simply call the parseInt method, the parseInt. So it's going to simply make sure that all the current data and the incoming data are all converted to numbers, all for the amount you get. So just, we're going to say parseInt. Now this is now, so the current data are currently number, the incoming data are not numbers, they are string. So with this parseInt, it's going to simply convert the incoming data to numbers you get. So that has been the problem there. So once we've done this now, let's call the function again on expense forms. So I think I'll just say Ctrl Y. Okay, sorry, Control Z. So now we've called back our add expense function from the app.gxs. So we've called it back now. So I hope this things works now. So let's clear this page. Okay, so let's just add this now. So say 200, category, groceries, submit. Okay, I think it's working. So come down here, you can see now we have 2 packs of chocolates added. You can see we have 2 packs of chocolates added to the expense form, and our total updates by itself, you get. So let's add something. Let's just say 2 packs of milk. I'm going to call this 300 now. So for example, I might just set, let me remove the value there. You can see saying this is required, so let me just put 300. If I make this shorter, you can see it says this field requires at least 6 characters. So let's say 2 packs of milk. So the validation is working fine, the summation is working, everything is working fine. But currently we have a warning on the screen. The warning says that each child in a list should have a unique key prop, you get. So what's happening here is this. Now the new object we are adding, remember, currently on the expense form, on the expense list, we have this key. We have this key attribute, and it points down to item.id. But currently, what we are returning here, the current data we are returning does not have an ID. The current data does not have an ID. Let's come down here. There is no ID for it. Let's see. So from app.gxs, every item has an ID, but currently the data we are passing in currently does not have an ID. Remember, let's submit again. We submit this. Let's just submit. Let's submit again. What's happening? Groceries. Okay, just come here and say to the what is it called, app.gxs. Let's just say console.log data. Console.log data. So I want to show you something. So refresh this. Don't waste my time. So let's call this 2 packs of wine. So I just say 300, category, let's call it groceries, and submit. So now you can see now the current data we are submitting does not have an ID, and the existing data we have, they all have IDs, right? So that's why we're having this warning. You understand this warning you see here. So if you go down here now to the expense list, you need to pass in something else here. So every array we filter through always have 3 parameters. The first parameter is the current item in the array you are trying to iterate over. The second parameter is the index of that item, the index. So the index, and the last parameter is the array itself. You understand? It has 3 parameters: the current data, the index, and the array itself. So right now I'm going to get the second parameter right now, and I'm going to simply pass this as the key. So I'm going to pass this here as I want to say index, and then let's see if it works now. Let's refresh this page. Index now. So let's put in, I'm going to say 2 packs of milk, 2 packs of milk, amount, let's say 200, category, groceries. You can see now, let's add this. If you add this now, the form automatically updates. So submit. You can see now the error message has gone. The warning is not there again, and our form updates by itself. If you come over here and say 2 packs of, let's say, wine, and then we just make this 100, and then we submit. Let's give it utilities, submit. Currently it says 470. If we submit, it says 570. Everything is working fine. Okay, one last thing. So whenever we submit the form, we want to make sure the form gets empty. So I'll show you. So this is what I'm talking about here. So if we add, let's say 100, and then let's say entertainment, and you submit this form. Let's submit. Okay, I think it should be added now. So we just added this item now. So you can see the form is still having the same content. So I want to make sure whenever we submit the form gets empty. You get. So how do we do that? Go down to your expense form component. So we are going to import one more method. That method is called reset. So say reset. So it's called reset. So put in the comma. So let's see what's Okay, so we have the reset method already imported. Is it there? So we need to add it to this on submit handler you get. So come over here. So we're going to do something different right now. So we're going to create another callback function inside of this undo submit. So this is it here. So put in the callback function, and then the arrow is going to be an arrow function. So the same thing with, so this is it. Once you've done this, now you copy this add expense that helps to add data to the form, that helps to add a new expense. So just copy it, just copy or cut it out, then bring this down, paste it inside here, put in the code, the semicolon, and then we'll call the reset function. So reset. So once you've done this again, you need to pass in the data. Remember we have this data from, remember we have this data, we need to pass in. This data comes from our undo submit function. This data you see here, it comes from here, this undo submit. So you need to pass in this data as a parameter here, and also as an argument over here. So once we've done this, next everything should work fine, you get. So let's test again. So if you refresh the page now, let's try add another item. So, oh, there is no errors. Let's refresh the console. So let's add the same item again. So let's say 300. We come over here, let's say groceries. So click on submit. As in the form has been, the form is now empty, and our item has been added to the expense list. So everything is working fine.